Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It is Tuesday, October 8th. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined, of course, by Mr. Denny Carter, where we are going to tackle all of the biggest news in a newsy NFL week, a newsy NFL day. Robert Saleh fired after 3+ years on the job as Jets head coach. The recriminations are, of course, flying, Denny. We'll get to the bottom once and for all of who's right and also who is responsible for this.
That's right.
We're going to float theories on the inner workings of the Jets football franchise. We're also going to get into Monday Night Football fallout, where the Kansas City Chiefs, the worse they get, the better they get, Denny. You give them worse players, they're only going to get better. Nothing can stop this mediocre machine that is obviously anything but mediocre, but it really very Patriots-esque, as people keep pointing out to me online. Like, oh, you don't think our roster is good? Have fun watching us go 15-2 and winning yet another Super Bowl. So we'll talk about some of the changes for the Chiefs, including JuJu Smith-Schuster becoming a thing, Kareem Hunt remaining a thing. We'll look ahead to Thursday Night Football, where I just wrote 49ers. Come on, man. Like Shanny, like you got to believe. You got to believe.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about – he does not believe. We'll talk about the 49ers at the Seahawks. What is going on with Brock Purdy, his different style of play this year. If the Seahawks passing attack is actually good, I never, ever know, Denny. We're talking about the Bills are actually good. Is Dontayvion Wicks actually good, with Romeo Doubs seemingly coming back for week 6? Jalen Tolbert season in Dallas. Maybe Joe Flacco. Maybe Drake May talk. Maybe whatever else comes to mind, Denny. But yeah, at the forefront right now, the New York Jets, as you pointed out to me before the show, making their first midseason coaching change since they fired Lou Holtz in 1976. As I said, Lou just down catastrophic.
Still.
To be in the same sentence now as Robert Saleh. I was about to do a Lou Holtz impression. Probably a good idea not to try to do that live on air.
Yeah.
And just season of change for the Jets. I think anyone who's watched the past 2 games couldn't really credibly say, like, oh, man, this is unjustified. Like, the Jets need to stay the course. I mean, I don't think anyone was really necessarily thinking about Robert Saleh getting fired. I was thinking every week that I watched the Jets that, man, Robert Saleh doesn't seem like a good coach. What do you think? What are your initial salvos here on the Jets coaching change?
There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into this, I think. I want to pull back on this notion, and I immediately, of course, jumped to this conclusion that Aaron Rodgers came to Woody Johnson and the ownership and said, enough of this guy. We're done. Yeah, I'm done. We're done. Move on. I don't think that happened.
Real quick, Rodgers is done, of course, if you watch his face on the sidelines, but you're saying it's not done with Rodgers.
Right. No, Rodgers clearly, I did not appreciate being gaslighted into oblivion about the sideline push that happened between them and being told that's the way men hug, is they push each other around.
No.
So I don't, that obviously was some sort of issue between Saleh and Rodgers, whatever. I think this comes down to Woody Johnson, a billionaire with, very raw feelings, being embarrassed in front of his buddies overseas as a former ambassador.
So yeah, not to get political, he was a former U.S. government official in London. You come into his town and you totally embarrass him, guys.
And you right. I mean, and you get blown out for a while and you kind of make a comeback and then you lose on a last second interception. I don't know. It seems to add up to, oh man, you really embarrassed me in front of my buddies. You're gone. Also, Saleh was 20-32. Let's be real about it. Like, it was never good. I do think it's actually amazing that Robert Saleh made it 6 weeks into the 2024 season after being linked to Zach Wilson. I mean, that was the end. That was the end. When the Jets drafted Zach Wilson, that's the end of Joe Douglas as GM eventually, and that's the end of Saleh as head coach.
Well, paradoxically, I feel like that's why Robert Saleh kept his job as long as he did, because all he had to do for the alibi is like, guys, come on. And he points at Zach Wilson like, dude, as you know, again, I am sitting right here. You can just say this after I leave the room. Like, pointing to Zach Wilson, like, how am I supposed to win with this guy? Which I guess fair. How is he supposed to win with this guy? But yeah, over the summer, we talked about Jaden Daniels as our potential red flag. We were so far extremely wrong on. Like I don't like that there's a highlight reel of this guy getting lit up, taking huge hits. Robert Saleh's highlight reel as head coach was the 1,000-yard stare. And every second half, the camera's zooming in on him. Like, it looked like your family's gone.
And yeah, I mean, so the lasting image of Robert Saleh is, of course, having some sort of coat on with the hood up, and it's raining because it never stops raining at Jets games.
No.
And the 1,000-yard stare into the rain coming down in front of him. That's the lasting image. I don't sense that he was an incredibly good head coach.
No. Horrible head coach.
He farmed out this year. He farmed out the offense to Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. And I just don't think that was ever going to work.
He might not have had a say in that. But yeah, the
1,000-yard. He's a head coach.
I mean, let's be real. There are situations in every sport, not just the NFL, where you're not going to have the say.
I get it.
Aaron Rodgers coming in, you're just not going to have the say.
I feel like as a head coach, you can and probably should say, like, this is unacceptable and it will not happen. Like that.
Then,
like this is.
You are fired.
Okay. Well, then he was never really the head coach. Then Woody Johnson's the head coach.
Well, every owner is the head coach, but
not really.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Saleh.
Only the bad owners are the head coach.
That's true. The Jets, that's why they're such a great organization, by the way, is because of the head coaching ability of Woody Johnson. But yeah, we got the 1,000-yard stare for Robert Saleh, the 1,000-yard stare into oblivion, I would say.
Yeah.
You come out, you walk out of the motel, your friend puts his hand on your shoulder. Robert, the Buick's gone, man. They took it. They took it. Like they took even the Buick. They swore they'd at least leave the car.
Right. They took the dog.
Yeah, the dog. They did leave a note saying the dog is safe, but they are keeping the dog.
Yeah.
So
we're not an animal violence podcast.
Robert Saleh, man. Like, again, this is the kind of stuff we can't really know, of course, as not only not reporters, as just literal podcasters who just talk and concoct scenarios. But Robert Saleh's leadership seemed to be severely lacking, which maybe gets to the point you're saying he wasn't respected enough as a leader to like really have say over who the offensive coordinator was, of course, over who the quarterback was. And they suffered the worst loss ever. And, there's different leadership styles, but every worst loss in Jets franchise history, he was distraught, but he was never like angry.
No, I know.
Like you should maybe show some emotion.
I do feel like he needed to be more fired up, especially during like the darkest days of the Zach Wilson experiment.
Yes.
And then again, as far as roster management goes, and this falls on GM Joe Douglas as well, not having a fallback plan to Rodgers last year is inexcusable. I'm sorry. I know you're not expecting the guy to miss the whole season. I get that. But to say that our backup plan is to put in Zach Wilson, the worst quarterback of a generation besides Bryce Young, then it is. I mean, that again is inexcusable. I will say before we move on, I just wanted to mention how stale this Jets offense has been. We're talking about an offense that uses play action on 20% of its plays, which is just really low, one of the lowest in the league.
Also insane because Aaron Rodgers is like totally deadly on play action, like totally deadly.
But apparently, it's his call. Like he doesn't like to move people around, at least according to reports I've read.
And talk him into it then.
And then motion usage, we're only seeing that on 35% of the Jets offensive snaps. This past week against the Vikings, that fell to 30%. So there's really the whole offense. We talked about this last week on the show with Kyle. The whole offense comes down to, hey, Rodgers, you got to do something really cool. Like we say, if you don't do something cool, we're not going to move the ball.
So by the way, they don't have anyone fast enough to do motion with. Is one of the problems for the Jets offense. This is not. I'm not saying this is a bit. I'm not saying this is a joke. It's kind of an imperfect comparison. What I thought watching Aaron Rodgers against the Vikings in London was the same feeling I got watching Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against the Bucs, where the Chiefs got annihilated. The Chiefs offensive line just caved in every single play, where Mahomes was making miraculous throws 20 or 30 yards down the field. Aaron Rodgers was making miraculous throws 2 to 3 yards down the field, but whatever they were doing was totally untenable. Totally untenable. Like, it was hero ball, but it wasn't even good hero ball. It was a 2-yard out hero ball.
Yeah.
Not sustainable as an offensive approach. Robert Saleh was a defensive-minded head coach, of course. Jeff Ulbrich, though, you just pull up, Google Jeff Ulbrich, look up his Google images, go to his Wikipedia. He's got like the most Jeff Bagwell late 90s goatee you've ever seen. I think justifiably so. This team is going to come out and run the ball 40 times in week 6. And as they should, we haven't seen anything yet, basically, I think, in terms of like a defensive coach mentality from the Jets. And they are going to run the ever-living you-know-what out of the ball against the Buffalo Bills, somehow on Monday Night Football. Of course they're on Monday Night Football. What? Like, only the Jets at their lowest moment, and yeah, you're on Monday Night Football this week.
Have they ever not been on Monday Night Football?
No.
And I feel like every single week they're in prime time. It actually, that does make sense. I will say, per the metrics, worst running game in the NFL. They're probably going to force the run, and it actually might work this time because the Bills, the way they play defense is to beg you to run it 5 yards at a time. Yes. And, so it could work out. But overall, you got to feel from a fantasy standpoint, we're going to bring it all the way around to fantasy here. You got to feel bad. You got to feel pretty bad about everyone in this offense, including Garrett Wilson, who I know saw 22 targets. I wrote them up in the regression files. That sort of volume, not just the pass volume or the target volume, but the play volume the Jets had in week 5, that will not last.
No. So the Jets, man. By the way, Robert Saleh, listen, I know you're trying to set a mood, set a vibe. Probably not a good idea to have playing continuously over the PA system at Florham Park. The Sounds of Silence by Columbia recording artist Simon and Garfunkel.
It was the remix, though. Yeah. You have to give him credit.
Was it the disturbed version?
It was
the stained version. Excuse me.
It was the stained version. They also had an electronic remix, so 17-minute long.
And the Florham Park PA, they haven't updated in a while, so it sounded really tinny, by the way, which made it even more haunting. I just don't think it had the players in the right mindset. I'm hearing the Sounds of Silence.
There were players crying, reportedly.
They were. But I swear, I know I'm coming full circle. Run the ball, man. Run the ball 45. It's the game, too. I don't even if it's not working, they need to reset the mentality. They need to reset the expectations for the blockers, for Aaron Rodgers, for Breece Hall, who's one of the best players on the team, having a totally catastrophic season.
Yes.
Run the ever-living daylights out of the ball, Denny.
I tend to disagree, but
Monday Night Football, the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, we take away 2 of your best players or whatever, 5 of your best players, 10 of your best players. Guess what the result is going to be? We only get better.
We're going to win even more.
We're going to win even more. We're going to win by more than one score for once. Their first multi-score win all year. Of course, the most predictable result in the history of the NFL is, of course, Derek Carr immediately crumbling in Monday Night Football in Arrowhead Stadium. Like, you kind of just take for granted that's going to happen. But still, most convincing victory of the year so far for the Chiefs. Didn't miss Rashid Rice at all. Had totally catastrophic red zone struggles. That was a big deal. But I honestly thought Patrick Mahomes looked about as good as he had all year. Had some yards that didn't show up in the box score because of defensive pass interference penalties. Kind of reminding of his true greatness. Like, some guys, they're just too bad to produce. Like, you can't produce with Justin Watson. Even JuJu Smith-Schuster, who's had success in the NFL, he's probably lost 20% of his athleticism. You give him to Patrick Mahomes. I know he's been there all year, but steps into a bigger role. Like, what? Pat Mahomes, like, whatever. Else make him good. Who cares? Like, it's fine. Like, you gotta throw to somebody. Is this real with JuJu? Is it gonna be someone different every week? Are there any sweeping takeaways for this Chiefs passing game from their first post Rashid Rice appearance, Denny?
I don't think it's going to be someone new every week. Mecole Hardman saw a lot more involvement, but I don't see that happening. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said last Wednesday or Thursday, I forget which day it was, he said, look, the Chiefs want to make JuJu Smith-Schuster a thing in the wake of the Rashid Rice injury. And, I actually blurbed that, and I took note, and I didn't think of it again all week.
I read it. I scan through our blurbs frequently. There's some, of course, you just don't stop and read. JuJu Smith, I'm like, next.
Yeah, right.
Defensive player, guard, JuJu Smith-Schuster, next. All right, Tank Dell, finally. Thank you.
It wasn't, I don't know if we talked about him on Thursday, which I would blame on you mostly, but he
truly my fault, actually.
Targeted on 28% of his routes against the Saints, really strong. Had a nice scammy little ADOT, averaged at the target of 6.3. Him and Travis Kelce combined to see 57% of the team's targets. That's a concentrated passing attack that I think we can get behind. We mentioned that Travis Kelce, with the Rice injury, clearly has a path to tight end 1 overall, just through a pure, unadulterated scam. And I think that's going to happen, barring an injury or something. And I think JuJu will be the wide receiver 1. going forward. Just to give you an idea of how much of a check down passing game this is, Patrick Mahomes, 5.2 air yards per attempt this season. That's the lowest in the NFL by a significant margin. Last night against the Saints, Pat, it got even worse. 4.4 air yards per throw for Patrick Mahomes. So we're going full Alex Smith. And I got to say, one thing that just drives me nuts is when Mahomes stands back in the pocket and he rears back and he's ready to uncork one 60 yards downfield, and then he doesn't. You got to let it go, brother. You just got to let it fly sometimes.
No. You actually don't. We know Mahomes can and will. You know why he's doing that. It's like, I'm sure that the thought process is, I know this is the first time ever in Justin Watson's career he's just going to get open. And so it's like, I'm going to throw this ball at Justin, and he didn't get open. And that is what that is. It's not a doubt or lack of belief in his own arm. I'm sure it's just seeing my horrible receivers are totally covered.
Maybe. Okay, here's some things we know. Xavier Worthy, too small, way too small. He's not going to be a thing ever.
Stop.
The only thing that's keeping him going are cute little trick plays that Andy Reid makes up in the shower. And
guess what they do? They result in 3-yard rushing touchdowns.
Whatever. Okay, yeah. So I'm playing my receiver every week in hopes that he's going to have a goal line carry.
Yes,
come on. Like, okay, so he's too small. That's a failed experiment. Marquise Brown out for the year. I don't know who he's going to throw deep to. I guess it has to be Watson or maybe Hardman. But once in a while, he's got to let it rip.
Well, I do see your point that
I thought we were on the same page.
The classic. Well, I was on the same page with this in the summer when I thought Marquise Brown was going to be there and Xavier Worthy was going to maybe be off to a little better start for his career. But it's like, how can he even? And Rashid Rice could have commanded more deep targets too. It's like, genuinely, like, what is he supposed to do right now? And I will say the A-dot stuff is horrible and compelling. But 3 games. So first off, his yards per attempt is still 7.7. That's fair. It's on the higher side, of course. 8.0 is where you start to get to really good. His yards per attempt has been 8.4 or above in 3 of 5 games. The only games where it was below was somehow against the Bengals and Falcons. 2 teams have been giving him a lot of big plays in the passing game. So maybe they're just doing the full Kyle Shanahan and they've worked out an amazing yak scheme here. Because I really do genuinely believe the plan was airing it out coming into the season. The facts on the ground have changed. And Mahomes is just the kind of guy who finds his way to greatness one way or another. And that he's going to still do that, Denny. He looked really good to me. Like, I thought he looked by far the best he had all season, despite the offense totally bogging down the red zone. That was a bummer.
That was a bummer. JuJu dropping that touchdown was tough too.
That was very tough. By the way, it was a really obvious point, I guess, in hindsight. So I'm not going to pretend like, but I just had not even really realized until you mentioned it. It's like the extent to which Travis Kelce's targets have just gone to Rashid Rice. Like, that's 17 catches since Rashid Rice got injured. Like, abundantly clear. That was like a correct. Like, I kind of thought they were different style of checkdowns.
No.
Like, he was the short guy. Travis Kelce was going to be the intermediate guy still. They were just all going to Rashid Rice.
Rice had taken the Kelce role. Like, Rice was like basically playing the exact same role Kelce did back when Kelce was good. And now they don't have him, so they have to just throw it 3 yards at a time to Kelce.
Chiefs hater. I don't know. I'm currently going viral, by the way. I don't know if you've seen this.
I did. You can't stop going viral. That's the problem.
I can't stop. And it's the bleeper they get, the more unstoppable they become, Denny. Part of that, real quick, by the way, is Kareem Hunt pushing for RB1 stat. It was almost comic. This is the most comically easy backfield takeover I've ever seen.
I know.
The poor little fullback, the poor little Samaje Perine. I mean, cute story. By the way, I'm going to put out this weapons grade take before I let you speak on Kareem Hunt. All I'm saying, after watching week 5 and watching Deshaun Watson bring the quarterback position to new depths, the Browns running game being totally dysfunctional, Kareem Hunt being terrible the past 2 years in Cleveland, especially after Nick Chubb's injury last year, it's almost as if Kevin Stefanski is solely a Nick Chubb merchant. And
wow, that is
Hall of Fame level running back and Nick Chubb holding up the entire operation.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with the quarterback who wanted to quit 3 years ago.
No,
and
well,
hates his life every moment
does.
he's on the field.
He does, but the play caller can't fix it though because he's a Nick Chubb merchant. So he has no idea how to get out of this.
I will defend Kevin Stefanski to the death. He's a great head coach. He is importantly a handsome head coach, and I think he'll do great.
Explain to me how Kareem Hunt was terrible with the Browns and now easily took over the backfield of one of the best teams in the NFL.
Obviously, it's over for him in Cleveland. They're going to fire him, but he's going to be good wherever he goes next. It's the Watson thing. It's just the Watson.
It is, but now you got to talk about Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so Hunt
pushing for RB1 status is the framing here.
This reminds me, the Zoomers literally won't remember. You guys were in diapers, but No-Sha Moreno took over the Denver backfield late during one of the early Peyton Manning seasons in Denver. Okay, and we were like, no, he's not good. You don't understand. He's not good. It's gonna be somebody else. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter that he wasn't good. He saw 28 touches every freaking game, and he went over 100 yards, and he scored touchdowns in the green zone, and the millennials were happy. Now, I would say we were the young ones back then, so we actually didn't like it, but I would like it now. And this is what we have with Kareem Hunt: 27 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown against the Saints. 3.8 yards a pop, not exactly anything to write home about. From a zero RB standpoint, couldn't be better, honestly. And I do want to say the following: the Chiefs ran 84 plays against the Saints. Only the Falcons had more plays in Week 5. That was I think that now yes, that's right. That was part of the reason why Hunt was able to see so much volume. I will also note, as I did in the regression files, where I encourage folks to check out, that we have seen a shift in this Chiefs offense. They've been under their expected pass rate now in 3 of the past 4 games. So I do think that they're okay, which is grinding it out. And I think we saw that last night.
The one word of caution I'll say, so I lucked into Kareem Hunt in a few different leagues, including our Dynasty League, where it's been truly a gift from God.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to whoever arranged that, whoever preordained that bit of destiny there. But the Chiefs, they're going on bye for Week 6. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I guess, will probably be back in Week 7. It's possible. We've already seen peak Kareem Hunt, who again wore down horribly down the stretch for the Browns. But I think now that was just because more Kevin Stefanski is a Nick Chubb merchant. But so we'll just see what happens. There is a chance we've already seen peak Kareem Hunt, and I will say that word of caution.
It's possible. Yeah, I'm not too worried about CEH, and I think it's just like whoever Mahomes wants to lead the backfield will lead the backfield.
That's a good point. But I was about to move on from this game, kind of burying the lead. Are the new Saints just dead?
Oh, yeah.
Are they just dead? 2 amazing games to start the year. 3 absolute clunkers now. Chris Olave is just on the Bank Examiner all-century team.
Yeah.
Derek Carr, injured oblique, short week. Are the new Saints just already dead as soon as they were born?
Real quick on the wide receiver front in New Orleans, Rashid Shaheed is the wide receiver 1. He has double the air yards, actually more than double. It's Chris Olave, leading in targets, leading in receiving, leading in everything. So I think we have to kind of accept that this is a 1A, 1B situation, and Chris Olave is not the 1A. Also, the Saints have completely pulled the plug on all the cool things that we gave them credit for over the first 2 weeks of the season. They use play action on over half of their plays in weeks 1 and 2. This team gets it. They get it. They're doing the cool stuff that good teams do, right? Well, over the past 2 weeks, 13% play action rate against the Falcons in week 4, 13% play action rate against the Chiefs in week 5. Okay, so basically no play action anymore. Motion, their use of motion dropped to 30% last night. That was up towards 70% in the early going this season. What happened, Pat? I think as soon as they encountered negative game script, they just abandoned everything that was working. So when they were front running, when they're up by 3-4 touchdowns, they're doing play action, they're shifting, they're doing all this cool stuff, and we're with it. We're like the Shanahan offense now. But as soon as they encountered a little bit of resistance, they collapsed. And I believe I said something along those lines last week on the Rotoworld Football Show. I recommend people listen to us more often.
You did say that. I still don't know. That is the best working theory, I guess. Like that it didn't work one time, and so they just totally abandoned it. Or maybe Derek Carr was never on board, and maybe Derek Carr just thought he was making amazing throws and reads this season. It was like, we don't need all this crap. I'm just going to throw it deep to Rashid Shaheed. And then he did throw it deep to Rashid Shaheed early last night. But yeah, he needs the bells and whistles. No one in the NFL needs the bells and whistles more than Derek Carr or Jake Hayner.
And now he's hurt. Yeah. And he has by the way, Carr said he heard it on the throw. He heard the oblique on the throw, not on the fall to the ground. So
it must have been, he did have to really, that was an unnatural motion. As he was like, it was almost like trying to throw a ball as high as he can. It was not a natural motion.
It was also one of the best throws I've seen in recent memory.
I know that poor, I was going to say that poor guy again, that for the second time in the show, that poor guy who did not catch that ball. I'm sorry. Listen, man, difficult catch, but there's a reason you're in the NFL.
That was crazy. That was like a full court shot sort of situation where the percentage of him being able to put it where it needs to be put was like 0.1% per next gen stats per my brain. And he did it. It was perfect. Anyway,
the young Tipton fella probably needed to catch that one.
Yeah.
Help your quarterback out, young man. We will help each other out and take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. This Sunday evening, don't miss Joe Burrow and the Bengals traveling east for a date with the New York Giants. Coverage of the matchup in the Meadowlands begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. That's right, folks. It's called the Meadowlands. We'll never call it City Life Globe Field or whatever. What is it called? City
Field?
City Field's the Mets. MetLife Stadium, of course. I can keep my insurance companies right. MetLife's insurance, right? I don't know. MetLife, I'm sure they're out there doing really great things.
I think the only companies left in America are insurance companies.
Insurance companies and Comcast. We are very thankful.
We love our Comcast.
Very thankful Comcast is still out there. Not thankful at all for Kyle Shanahan, man. So what are you doing? Like, I swear to God, this guy every week gets worse. There's never been a worse elite coach in my lifetime. I'll never see a worse elite coach as long as I live. Coughing up games to the zombie Rams. You're letting Kyler Murray come back on? Like, the guy who, after the script is up, is like, I don't know, you figure it out. Coach. I'm supposed to, quote, make plays? Right. Have you ever thought about drawing up a cool play for me? Like, we did that on the opening series, but then that's all we have, Kyler. You got to actually do stuff. And then even Kyler can still do enough stuff to bring his team back against you. The 49ers are just in hell. An absolute. Everyone's healthy, too, except for Christian McCaffrey. They finally got Kittle back and going full strength. Debo back in full strength. Ayuk, 8 catches for 147 yards. So what is going on with the 49ers? What is specifically going on with Brock Purdy, who without Christian McCaffrey this year is going down the field way, way, way more often than he did last year, and kind of almost being a deep passer first, Denny? At least that's my interpretation of the data. What is your interpretation?
Yeah. So I looked into it very powerfully, and he is actually 4th among quarterbacks in downfield pass attempts with 21. Wow. 13% of his throws have gone downfield. That's an increase over last year slightly. And he's not bad at it. I'll just skip to the good part. PFF grades him 10th out of 32 qualifying quarterbacks in downfield passing. But this, of course, introduces variance into the equation. It's variance that we didn't have last year with Purdy in this offense. And I think it helps explain why his touchdown rate has plummeted. And I've written him up in the regression files 3 weeks in a row, I want to say, because I'm telling you, it's going to bounce. It's going to bounce back. Okay. And it just depends on when. I thought it was going to be this past week against the, let me check my notes. Yes. Against the worst secondary in the NFL. It didn't. There was only 1 touchdown. But yeah, so we're seeing more downfield passing, a slightly higher ADOT and stuff. I do think this is great for Brandon Ayuk. I think it's pretty good for Kittle. Not so great for Debo, I will say, because Debo operates in the short areas. And I guess this team just has trouble functioning without CMC. Because Jordan Mason is not involved in the pass game whatsoever.
No, he's not. I guess maybe really CMC must just be that important. And CMC is truly a Hall of Fame level talent. It's because it's weird. They're getting production but it's been so much more scattershot. Like they go several quarters without scoring. He'll go like 5 or 6 passes in a row without a completion, which you didn't used to really see from Brock Purdy. And it's like the cool stuff is still in there, but it's just become harder to execute, which makes sense. The cool stuff's gonna be harder to pull off when you don't have someone like keeping you on schedule. Like every first and second down, Christian McCaffrey gaining 5 or 6 yards makes the cool stuff like way easier to execute. And yeah, maybe running back matters very, very much in San Francisco, Denny.
Let's
close out one game though, man. Like
right. I would say that it seems like the San Francisco offense most misses McCaffrey as a pass catcher, and that the button pushing that's involved in the Shanahan system involves a lot of really well schemed, well designed, and then well executed screens to Christian McCaffrey that they don't have right now. And I don't know if that's because Jordan Mason is just not able to do that sort of thing, or if it's because they're not even considering it. But it is an element of this offense that's missing right now.
And just too, Shanny, the overthinker, like how many running backs have you drafted the past 5 years? You can't find one guy to catch some passes. Like, dude, I'm sorry. You got to trust someone at some point. Like, I'm sorry that Isaac Garundo or whatever has fumbled twice in practice, but like, get over it. Like, you can. I'm serious. Just get over it. Like, get over Yourself. Like, you're off. It's not that hard. The guy can come out there and catch a pass.
Shanahan's like, if we only had Jeff Wilson, we could do this play.
That is seriously the Shanahan mentality to a T. Like, he adjusts better than Mike McDaniel, I guess. Like, dude, like, there's so many, like, if I can't do it perfectly, why do it at all? And the player's like, I don't know, we're still pretty good.
Yeah,
like, we should probably still just do it.
I feel like we should try to stay afloat for a while.
All right. We should not blow a 23-10 halftime lead.
Oh, man. I knew it. I was watching that game and I'm like, and I just saw the way that Shanahan was playing late in that game. And I was like, well, they're going to lose. Like they're because they were trying desperately not to lose. That's the problem. That
really is too. Like, I know it can be hard to ascertain what my true opinion is on Kyle Shanahan. More than anything, those are the two things that drive me crazy on Kyle Shanahan. Is like letting perfect be the enemy of good or whatever. Like if like one little part's missing, he acts like, oh, nice game, do it now. And like getting real upset despite being so talented and having so many talented playmakers at his disposal. And just the not putting games away. Like, just stop trying not to lose. Have you not noticed that every time you do that, you lose?
Every time.
You lose every single time you do that. The Seahawks maybe kind of having the opposite problem, Denny, where they operate as if an elite offense, but maybe just don't have a truly elite quarterback, even though Geno is having a really good year. I cannot keep track of, is this Seahawks passing attack good or not? Like, seriously, what is going on here?
Not good per se, but voluminous, So for our purposes, pretty good. Since week 2, so we're throwing out week 1 when they established it hard against the run funnel Broncos. That didn't exist. That doesn't exist here. Since week 2, Seahawks are 11% over their expected pass rate, leads the league by a long shot. They're 14% over their expected pass rate on first downs, Pat. Okay, this is what we dream of when we dream at night. We think, oh my gosh, what if a team was 14% over their pass rate, over expected pass rate, and that's what we have here. 199 pass attempts leads the NFL for the Seahawks. 105 rushes, tied for dead last with the Titans through week 5. But, as you would expect with so much volume, there's not going to be efficiency. If there were efficiency, these guys would be like the greatest passing offense of all time. So you look at like net adjusted yards per attempt, the 17th. Geno has a 2.5% touchdown rate, which is way below his Seahawks career average of around 4.5%. I know it doesn't 2.5 to 4.5 doesn't sound big, but it is. It's
huge, enormous touchdown.
And so, I do think that will bounce back at some point, maybe not all the way back. But this team clearly is just full on wheels up. We're just going to pass the ball all the time. And I'm sure that if the struggles continue, they lost to the Giants somehow, inexplicably lost to the Giants. If the struggles continue, you're going to start hearing a lot of people in Seattle be like, we're going to run. They're not going to run. They're going to keep passing.
They maybe should run. Like, Geno, the efficiency is
sometimes maybe, yeah.
The efficiency is just declining. It's like the fake efficiency is on the increase still. He's completing over 70% of his passes.
Yeah.
He's averaging under seven yards per attempt for the first time as a Seahawk. Yeah, he's not making hay with the volume. He's leading the league in passing, literally. So he is at least getting some raw production.
Yeah.
But as you said, it has come at the cost of efficiency. And
from a fantasy standpoint, you are talking about a lot of volume to be spread around. And I think that's important. Also, Geno's rushing makes him very interesting week to week, no matter who they're playing. And I know they have a tough matchup against the Niners on Thursday. I still like Geno.
Niners aren't a tough match. Niners 2-3. They just lost to the Cardinals, Denny. Easy matchup, actually.
Forgot about that. We haven't. But yeah, the volume being spread around between JSN, Metcalf, Lockett, I think there will be enough there to keep all those guys interesting from different perspectives. I mean, JSN scam, Metcalf more volatile. If Noah Fant isn't terrible, maybe he gets involved at some point.
Shanny, I mean, this is gonna be like the most pointless observation I've ever made. Shanny on the road on a short week, again, a tilting Shanny on the road on a short week against the division rival is either gonna have like the full-on meltdown, like kind of the whole project starts to look like it might be collapsing, or it's just like 49ers murder mode, like 31-7 at halftime. I think we're gonna see an extreme version of Kyle Shanahan Thursday evening.
I'll buy that.
I'll buy that after using the phrase murder mode, it's probably time to take a quick break.
I would say so.
We'll be right back after this. One of the biggest matchups of the college football season kicks off on Saturday night. Both the Ohio State and Oregon have national title hopes, and they'll battle it out under the lights in Eugene. Coverage of the top 5 showdown begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Denny, Kyle can't join us on Thursday because he's already going to be tailgating for that game. Kyle pretends he's not an Ohio State fan. I'm sure he's already in Eugene, Oregon, getting ready, getting his bratwursts ready.
Crying and coping already.
Crying and coping because they're going to lose.
Yeah,
Oregon's actually horribly fraudulent this year. The Buckeyes are probably going to roll, but please still watch it on NBC.
Isn't Oregon horribly fraudulent every year?
Yes, they are the most fraudulent team in the history of college football.
I mean, come on. It's like it's like Gonzaga in basketball, right? They're just.
Gonzaga's made the national title game twice. I guess Oregon's made it twice also.
These West Coast teams, not real.
I mean, as evidenced by the fact that we can't keep together a power West Coast conference. Which, listen, man, talk about just a failure of imagination. All anyone wants to do in college football is make money. And they couldn't get anyone in a room together and just be like, listen, hear me out.
Yeah.
Maybe we will make more money if we keep together a West Coast.
That would have been cool. That would have been cool because I don't like Stanford over here in the East. Get them out.
No one can figure out how to make money with the California market. Like, dude, just talk about a failure of imagination.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is Cal in the Big Ten?
Then Denny, Cal, Berkeley, and Stanford, both in Central California.
Get them out.
I don't know what part of California Berkeley's in. I forget. Then they're in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
In ACC.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, this is not right. This is disorienting in a way that I've never experienced disorientation before.
People forget California is so big that its East Coast actually is on the Atlantic Ocean. So it makes geographical sense.
I was like, wait, I'm picturing a map. I don't think that's true.
It's California is on both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Don't look that up.
I don't.
Denny, I hope you looked up what is going on with the Buffalo Bills. My family is in poverty. If Josh Allen does not get it together, 9 of 30 for Josh Allen in Week 5. His worst performance probably since his rookie year. Is really Josh Allen-y rookie year. Part of that colored at the end by just clearly playing through a concussion. Total scandal. Like. Seriously, like, what are we even doing here?
It's not right that like a guy can fake his way out of a concussion. That should not be the case.
No, it wasn't the case for several years. The NFL, though, I feel like it's kind of quietly rolled back this policy. I don't know how he's allowed back in the game, but he was 9 of 30 back-to-back, really horrible performances by the Buffalo Bills. Khalil Shakir out Week 6, or 5. I guess that just makes the entire operation collapse, apparently. But what is going on with this Bills offense? This horribly disappointing Bills offense.
Yeah, so we have, I mean, just to provide some context as to how bad Josh Allen's game against Houston was, I have some numbers here. 27% under his expected completion rate. So his expected completion rate, Pat, was 58%. His actual was 31. Success rate 31%, lowest in the league by far of any quarterback this season, including Bryce Young. I think this team wants to be run heavy, and when they can't, it kind of all falls apart. And they were not able to do that this week. And so it fell apart, especially, I know it sounds funny, but I do think Shakir is an important part of this offense. I think he's like the playmaker. Dalton Kincaid is kind of there. Keon Coleman, I know, made a big play, but I don't think they want the passing game to revolve around him. They have empty route runners like MVS, and who's the big man?
Mac Hollins.
I can never remember this guy's name. And Mac Hollins, who, basically, like, I saw a stat. They've produced almost nothing on like a combined 40 targets this year. Like they, just there's just nothing going on in the pass game. So in games where they can be very balanced or run heavy, this offense will click. Okay. But when they have to revert to the pass, it is ugly. And we saw that against Houston.
To get hot takey, to get first takey. I think what we're also seeing is, so the Bills, they're kind of having their Chiefs season. The Chiefs going into last year just had no receivers. Don't know really how it ever happens to a team like the Chiefs or Bills. But in the salary cap era, even really good teams are going to have horrible weaknesses sometimes. The Bills come into the season, the receiver is a horrible weakness. Patrick Mahomes is the best pure thrower on planet Earth, probably the best thinker at the quarterback position. So he just somehow figured it out and made it work and won a Super Bowl. Josh Allen just isn't that exact same kind of passer. He's still not just a deep ball guy, not just an explosive play guy. He's an elite overall passer. I think we're seeing too is that I think we're seeing why there's a tier break between Pat Mahomes and even Josh Allen. That just like it's hard for anyone to have like true success with this limited of a skill core, and that it is going to be a problem. The Chiefs get connected to receiver trades. The Bills, I think, really need to make a receiver trade because I just don't think this is going to work.
I don't think that they would do that. So ESPN had an interesting piece ahead of the Texans-Bills game where they talked about the Bills realizing, hey, we don't need Stefon Diggs. And this was after some late season success on the ground against the Cowboys. I think they had 200+ yards rushing and 4 touchdowns on the ground. They didn't throw it at all. Stefon Diggs was not happy about that. And they said, okay, well, actually we can win and we don't need this guy. I guess you don't need him until you do. But I do think that like the Bills have decided to base their offense around this idea that you don't need an alpha wide receiver one. They're going to roll with that for better or worse.
Stefon Diggs did nothing wrong, apparently. Yeah, he was right. And he got revenge. He got revenge. Was it you who I was riffing with this about on Sunday night? I saw a headline of something like Steph Diggs declares revenge game success. I was like, I don't know, man. He caught like 5 passes for 48 yards. I guess that's a success.
He was tackled immediately after every catch.
So it wasn't the most revenge game I've ever seen. They got to get a receiver, man. This is you mentioned the difference between Mahomes and Allen. I actually have a good stat to sort of illustrate that. So in week 5, you would think, Mahomes doesn't do anything for fantasy purposes. Like it's all check downs, like we said, it's boring, whatnot. Run heavy. Well, Patrick Mahomes leads all quarterbacks by a healthy margin in drop back success rate in week 5. And I was told Steph Curry can't shoot.
Yeah, and he can. And that's the thing, is that Steph Curry can shoot, and no one talks about it. Okay. But yeah, Josh Allen dead last in success rate. And so I think yeah, there is a large gap as far as fantasy wise. Obviously, you want Josh Allen by far over Mahomes, but reality wise, I don't know. Even in
family, so not I'm not a victory lapper, dude. I don't ever victory lap.
I don't know. I don't like what you're about to say.
But to victory lap, like how many times? I believe, including last week on the show, that I had to tell you and Kyle, like, no, he's still like really good. It's still even going to be fine for fan. Like I told you guys were exaggerating even the downfall of Mahomes, even in fantasy. Like at his lowest moment, he was still like the QB 13,
which is useless. In fantasy. I mean, if you're in a super flex or whatever, that's fine, but it's useless if you're in a 1 quarterback league.
No, it's not, because people wanted to play Sam Darnold over Pat Mahomes last week, and thank God I ranked Mahomes ahead of Darnold still. And just see what happens when you doubt the king. See what happens.
I still think
You doubted him. I just turned red, by the way. That's what happens when you doubt Pat Mahomes. I've turned red again. If you're watching,
you're back on Mars. I will say that you really do have to be desperate to play Mahomes in one quarterback formats, right?
No, you do not. Truly, just stop spreading this narrative. Like, seriously, he's averaged 8.5 yards per attempt, 3 of 5 games. I've never seen someone more overdue for touchdown regression. And I would say, watch the tapes, or what's the phrase that we always say? Release the tapes. Look at the tapes. Release the tapes. Look at the rankings, and just tell me for real if you're playing these guys over Patrick Mahomes, Denny. Like, are you're going to play Justin Fields over Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man. I guess this one's maybe too easy. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, for sure.
What? For sure? I bet Mahomes had probably way more fantasy points than Kirk Cousins until last week.
No.
Caleb, he did. I can't look it up. Caleb Williams or Patrick Mahomes.
Look it up. Oh my God. You are. I don't know why you're doing this. This Mahomes thing is crazy, man. It's over. Like we gotta. He
just had 330 yards. It's not even remotely over. It's seriously not even remotely over. Is what I'm trying to tell you.
From a fantasy standpoint, Brady was winning Super Bowls when he was not viable for fantasy. It's going to happen with Mahomes too.
We'll see. I think we've seen the low point. I think we've seen the end of this discussion. Have we seen the end of Romeo Doubs as being fantasy relevant, Denny? It looks like he's coming back from his suspension and demanding he get the ball. Frankly, as immature as it is, we actually like to see this alpha behavior. We want Romeo Doubs to want the ball. Is he still fantasy relevant, or is he immediately supplanting Dontayvion Wicks again this week, or is the situation too volatile to count on Romeo Doubs?
Man, I feel like it's too volatile. I mean, they could still do like a slap on the wrist and like reduce playing time, or like sit the first half or something like that. Because I mean, what he did was not cool. Like just not showing up for work because Dontayvion Wicks got some press. And I, by the way, Packers fans, this can't be this. I actually saw this. This can't be true. Romeo Doubs is a team first guy. Well, look, he's a receiver first and foremost. Okay. So you got to remember that. Like, and if a receiver is not seeing targets, a receiver is not happy. It doesn't matter if his team wins 3 straight Super Bowls, but he's not seeing targets. He's not happy.
Okay? Steph Diggs got put on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and it didn't matter.
Didn't care. He didn't care at all. He just wanted to see. He wanted 15 to 18 targets a game. Anyway, Dobbs, I don't think you can mess around. I'm going down with the Wicks ship. I know you are an absolute hater to your core. But 27% target share, didn't do anything with it. But
he's not good. But yeah,
the thesis of the play was right. Jordan Love, I do want to say, has been bad, and there's no.
I know that's a problem. Jordan Love is not having a good season, and he's having an impossible to evaluate season because the rough week 1 that he had, even before he got hurt, was on an unplayable football field on a different continent. That was real bad. You couldn't evaluate him on that game. And I'm just having trouble evaluating him because I don't know if he's healthy. They're behaving as if he's not healthy, like limiting his pass attempts and all this. Now there's injuries, there's intrigue. I'm having trouble like truly evaluating Jordan Love, but not having trouble coming to the conclusion that he has not been good so far. So 2024 starts.
Yeah, so his completion rate over expected last year was really high, especially when he got hot late in the season, right? It was like top 5 throughout. This year, it's 30th out of 31 qualifying quarterbacks. Only Anthony Richardson has been less accurate as far as this metric goes. That's a huge change. And I will say that it makes some sense considering how hot Jordan Love was running on downfield throws last year, right? And so if that cools off, and it's always going to, then the CPOE and other stats they start to drop off, and things don't look as pretty. There needs to be more easy throws in this offense, I think.
My COPE on Love running unsustainably hot on the throws last year was just, as you remember my take, he just plays quarterback different, and he's trying throws that most quarterbacks don't try anymore. Well, those, like you said, it almost always regresses. And now just too, I'm going to be wondering all year if he's truly healthy now, because he came back too quick.
He did come back.
He came back way too quick. And now all year I'm going to be wondering if he was healthy.
But like that deep ball, I don't know if you saw it to Jaden Reed early in the game against the Rams in Week 5. That's the sort of shot that most modern quarterbacks wouldn't even dream of taking, right? You know who dreams of taking that? Joe Flacco, old school guy, right? That's an old school throw. Mahomes doesn't even look at that. He's repulsed by the idea of a 50-yard completion.
Mahomes is breaking up inside that he can't do this. You know this, right? He's dying inside. But Mahomes actually wants to win Super Bowls, though, and he can't do it to Justin Watson. He just can't do it. He cannot do it to Justin Watson.
So you have to have Tyreek Hill. That's the only way you can throw it downfield.
You got to at least have Hollywood Brown, who is not good but can do that. You have to at least have Hollywood Brown.
Okay, we got to get off Mahomes. All right. What were we talking about? Doubs. Yeah. So I do think Wicks. You should not dismiss Wicks going into Week 6.
What was your final Mahomes point? You got to make it.
Why did they draft Xavier Worthy? I thought this was the whole thesis of the play, right? Guy runs fast. You put guy runs fast with Mahomes and everything will work. This is what I heard. This is what I heard from every Mahomes apologist on my timeline for 3 months, for 90 days. Oh, you're going to give Mahomes the fastest guy in the league and he's not going to do anything with it? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I hate to be like the excuse maker, the alibi creator. The plan was to have Xavier Worthy be the number 4 weapon. And to have like defense is not focused on him because of Travis Kelce, because of Marquise Brown, because of Rashid Rice, and to basically get him those really advantageous like one-on-one looks, or get him out in space where he can put people in a blender. And now with all the injuries, like he has to be used in ways that he's not ready for and not comfortable with, and that's why Xavier Worthy is going up busto, as Kyle Dvorchak would say.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting away. If you're playing Worthy every week, you got to reevaluate your situation with your 12-team roster, I would say.
Or reevaluate the COPE I just gave you.
Cope.
Jalen Tolbert, is he a thing? He's been percolating, had his best game yet in Week 5 against the Steelers. Brandon Cooks is on injured reserve. The Cowboys desperately need this extra weapon. This week they have, that's right, a shootout matchup in the Detroit Lions. Is Jalen Tolbert becoming an every week starter, 12-team league relevant?
I think so. I mean, if you have 3 wide receiver spots and a flex, I think that you probably need to work him in, especially in a good game script, or at least a good environment like we have against Detroit this week. I said we as if I'm a Cowboys fan. I am not a Cowboys fan.
Denny finally admitted, finally slipped up. Denny's a Cowboys fan.
It's true. I've watched enough morning football talk to become.
Denny, did you stay up last night watching the Yankees game? Bet you really hated that when they lost.
No, I was preparing for Lakers season. All right. Jalen Tolbert ran a full route share in Week 5. Some interesting stuff. I just want to mention. Jake Ferguson acted as the full-time slot guy with Brandon Cooks out. Not that Cooks was playing slot a whole lot, but Ferguson just moved to the slot, and that's important. Like, slot usage for a tight end is what we're looking for from a fantasy standpoint. So Ferguson is going to cook until further notice. Tolbert led the team with 10 targets. This actually shocked me. I had to check this twice. Tolbert saw 44% of Dallas's air yards against Pittsburgh.
There was something going on between CD and Dak. They were not happy.
Yeah, they were not on the same page.
No.
But it's a good overall environment for Tolbert because Dallas has a 60% neutral pass rate. So when the game is within 1 score, it's neutral game script. That's 8th highest in the NFL, and actually pretty close to the top. I mean, the top is the Seahawks with 66%. So I think it's a good spot for Tolbert for now.
I think so too. And yeah, hopefully the right matchup. Please to shoot out. Games are starting to shoot out all of a sudden the past 2 weeks. Week 5 kind of like welcomed offense back to the modern NFL.
That was nice. Yeah.
Please, too, like beginning Thursday night, just fireworks between the Falcons and Bucks set the tone for the entire weekend.
Yeah, I want Ryan Grubb to know if he runs the ball once on first down, I'm going to break my TV.
It's because, man, Geno is predictably he's fine.
I cannot hear you talk badly about Geno right now.
There's a whole Pacific Northwest like EPA brigade Geno online, and he's fine. He's fine. He's getting worse though.
He's so fine. You know.
By the way, you're watching Bronny and LeBron the other night.
I knew they were playing for sure.
You knew that LeBron's son was literally on the team now. Did you know that?
Oh, how could I not know that? That's the only NBA discourse of the entire offseason. I have no idea who anybody plays for except for Bronny.
ESPN has forgotten who the New York Yankees are, but they have a segment on Bronny.
On Bronny, a guy who will literally never play.
Bronny, who averaged 3.4 points for USC, something like that. We should probably get out of here, but real quick, this is a topic near and dear to your heart. Joe Flacco comes in immediately. It just is amazing. Way better than Anthony Richardson, unfortunately. What are the differences? The very obvious differences, but try to put it, I guess, in numerical terms for the Colts offense with and without Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson probably going to start week 6. But what might we see if he does not and Joe Flacco gets another start?
Yeah, so you have Flacco, 4th best completion rate over expected on the week. Was really accurate in the intermediate areas. The whole Indianapolis offense changed. I do have the numbers here somewhere, but they shifted to a more pass heavy approach against who are they playing? The Jaguars. Yes, they played. Okay, so they were 8%
last week. Yes, they were playing the Jags.
The Colts 8% over expected pass rate, 27% over on first down. That is not something that you've seen with Anthony Richardson, and so this opens up everything for fantasy. It makes Josh Downs crazy good for PPR purposes. Okay, even if he doesn't score touchdowns, he's going to get there every week. I guess it makes Michael Pittman okay. Even you saw Alec Pierce going bananas. That's not sustainable by any means, but we know Joe Flacco likes the long ball and he's willing to throw that, and the guy doesn't have to be wide open. He's just going to give his guys a chance, and Pierce, it typifies that sort of player. Richardson's going to come back in. I do still think there's a chance that if the Colts really do commit to winning this year, that they are going to have to shift to Flacco. Now, if they don't, if this is just an evaluation season, then it's going to be Richardson. But if you're in a super flex, I wouldn't drop Flacco quite yet.
It's a pretty complex calculus for the Colts because I don't think anyone could debate that the win now option is just clearly Joe Flacco. After that month of play we saw from Anthony Richardson, but I think they're going to determine that their defense is so bad. Jonathan Taylor's already hurt again, that they're just going to have to take their chances as a developmental season, and that they're going to give Anthony Richardson every start. And it's probably the right call too. I do think it is the right call. The defense is not good, which will put the second-year starter in bad spots. But I think they're just going to determine that they can't win now this year anyway. And that they're going to, and it's not the worst situation developed. This isn't like a Patriots situation where there is some talent, at least around Anthony Richardson. But if they actually want to win, like Joe Flacco, I mean, it's crazy to say because there'd be Joe Flacco like horrible blow up spots too.
Sure, yeah.
But clearly the win now option.
I think he just fits really well with any team that has pass game weapons, and the Colts do, and that's what's been frustrating with Richardson under center is that these guys can't get there for fantasy because of the nature of the offense and Richardson's shortcomings as a passer.
I don't think they'll trade him because he had some chemistry with Anthony Richardson. But while we were talking, I was thinking, man, get Alec Pierce on the Chiefs, man. Get Alec Pierce.
They're not getting rid of that guy now.
No, they're not. And we are going to get rid of each other, though. The show's over. Denny and I need 48 hours to regroup. We're mad at each other about the Mahomes thing.
Yeah, I'm very, very mad.
It is amazing that you and Kyle have seeded the ground. You've allowed me to constantly argue the greatest player in NFL history is going to still be good. You guys have seeded the Mahomes high ground to me. A truly catastrophic mistake.
Yeah, I tend to do that with good players.
You guys also ceded to me the high ground on the best running back of this entire generation. I'm like, yeah, Derrick Henry will be good. It's fine.
I gotta stop. I gotta stop seeding. So it turns out seeding ground is not a good strategy in a fight.
Yeah, don't seed ground on like era-defining players to me. Really good stuff from Denny. The regression files are live. He'll be back with all sorts of amazing analysis on Thursday with Kyle. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We'll be back a little later.